3-car.
shrink wrapped.
Oh, nice.
I drove by
Yeah,
the next
little-
day and it was a
little
barn.
space like
or a
this
garage.
upstairs.
It was like,
Yeah, and it went up quick, huh?
A week.
Do you want to sit
Like
over
one,
here?
they showed up, they did the slab, and then they showed up on Monday, and they're done
I
today.
don't have any window coverage.
Bring
Come over here.
Stay in front of
What did you
the
guys
window.
use?
Make a good curtain.
Act like a
Amish.
tree. Limit Steve.
The Amish,
Here.
backyard and beyond. How are you?
Backyard.
Yeah, very easy to work with.
Let me tell you, and they didn't script on anything.
Yeah, it looks nice, man. It looks really nice.
Thank
They
you.
use piping straight across.
Yeah, it looks
Well,
really, really
Get a
nice.
sheet.
over here or
It's
something.
really,
Yeah.
No, sit there.
You're gonna sit there.
No, sit there so you can see everybody. You need to see everybody. I can
nice
see.
hardwood floor. Where'd you get it from?
See everybody.
Yeah, you do.
Hey, nice hardwood floor up here. Where'd you get it from?
I wonder.
I called a supplier.
It was left over from a job.
No,
No. Yeah, I want to
They
go.
don't, they
it
don't
was
get
actually something they were
I don't bite, and I showered
discontinuing.
yesterday, so you're fine.
discontinue it or,
So I made a few calls.
that's all. Yeah, if you can't get it, then nobody can. Want to sit over here? Over
Yeah,
there?
because this way it's
Well, I was a
like you're on
little-
my chair. You
I was a little concerned because it's 24 on center. You know, the Joy Star.
This one?
Coulda-
It was only supposed to be 19.2 max, 16 on center.
19.2, yeah, 16.4.
Minus 16 on
Absolutely.
center.
19.2.
Yeah, square root of.
So I had to put 3/4 inch Advantech down.
can- like this, he really
It's been okay.
He's throwing those other like shit.
19.2,
Seasonally,
19.2
it
and a half.
moves a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
So
Totally, yeah, totally, a little bit. Yep.
I agree.
Huh?
Dan's
the
party.
Okay, so.
yeah, the wood.
We ought to tell everyone the new
Yeah.
position.
Yeah, because it's you
I
know
don't think
life
anyone
expectancy.
else.
This
It's-
is like what the builder
It's
said, but it has no babbles.
7:41.
It's time to start.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get this rolling because I'm, we're not gonna.
So do you
we're not
mind
gonna be
if,
here.
do you mind if I do the honors?
Go ahead, that's fine.
Okay, since I'm, so we want to introduce the new board to you. So your new president is Steve Harrell.
Hey!
Okay. Chance Blair is going to be vice president. Derek is going to be secretary. I'm going to be treasurer. And Emil is going to be member at large.
All right.
So it's all you, Steve.
All right, so,
And he's playing off of my agenda, so.
all right, so let's go ahead and introduce everybody. I'm Steve Harrell.
Emil Meduno.
Chance Blair.
Donna Sproles.
Derek LeBig. Okay,
What's up? Can we announce the item? ARB.
okay,
Jeff
No.
Sproles.
let's go ahead and, I don't have the minutes for May, so.
I apologize, I did not get a chance to.
I have one copy.
All right, well, do we want to go ahead and just, go through the minutes for?
Well,
May?
they've been out there, remember?
Did we
I
go
sent
through
the
these?
drafts
All right,
earlier.
Did we go ahead, did we approve these, at the, these didn't get approved at the annual
They
meeting?
did not get
No,
approved.
these, yeah, these would be approved today.
All
We
right,
did send the drafts out, so we have looked at it.
okay.
So I was
Is
fine
there anything,
with
is
it.
there anything on this that, that needs to be, scrutinized any further, or can we go ahead and approve the minutes for May?
I move that we approve the minutes from May.
A second.
Okay,
Hey, I get to make motions now.
all right, treasurer's report and financial committee update.
Okay, so I'll do the treasurer this meeting and then you got it after that?
Yeah.
Okay, or let's put it this way, I'll do the past and you can do the future.
Okay, there you go.
All right, so on June 25th, Steve Mast and I met with Trey Austin at Army to kind of to do the formal handoff of information and responsibility from the Finance Committee to Army. I sent out an email to the board earlier about all that was discussed, but Army is going to ingest our QuickBook records into their system. They're going to ingest all of 2019, and they might ingest 2018 also. But all the older records, they'll keep an electronic copy, but they're not going to incorporate it into their system. Steve and I gave Army a $25,000 check, which is the bulk of our operating money. We held back approximately $3,000 so that checks would clear and stuff, and that money is sitting in the the Apple Federal Credit Union checking account, okay? And in a couple months, after checks are cleared and there's no more expenses, we're just gonna hand the rest of the money over to Army and close the account, okay? Steve provided, information on the CDs and the money market account and stuff for the replacement reserves, and Trey is gonna manage that going forward, okay?
I'm sorry, but do you all still get involved in that money where it goes, or does Army manage all that now?
They will manage the payments, okay? So they'll make the payments and they'll make recommendations to
I was
us.
referring to the CDs. We've got different CDs. Are they gonna manage those, or are you gonna tell them what to put them in, or are they gonna decide?
They're gonna give us the recommendation,
Well, we would collaborate.
yeah.
Yeah.
They'll give us a recommendation. And
Yeah, we're not
we'll
just gonna
make a
let them
decision.
do what they
Well,
want.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Trey said he would like a formal audit using, he has a CPA that he prefers. He said this will cost about $1,200, and he would like to do that this year.
It's an ouchie.
It's an ouchie. When tax spring comes,
So, a financial audit, we're gonna get that.
we
That's what
have to
he's
decide.
requesting.
He's
Great.
requesting
We have to
it.
decide.
He's requesting it, okay?
Excellent.
Yeah, we just have to decide, and we have to pay for it. When tax season comes around next spring, he says he's got someone who'll do our returns for less than $500, okay? Steve, at the time, he said he would, by now I'm sure he has, sent electronic copies of all our contracts to Trey. He also provided Steve provided hard copy of all of this year's transactions to Trey, so he handed everything over. Steve was gonna send Trey all the information on our registered agent information and the D4 status and all that. So Trey's gonna handle that. Except right now, Steve Mast is still the registered agent for the HOA. That is gonna have to change. Army can be appointed as the registered agent, and that'll cost us $150 a year, or one of the directors, one of us, could be the registered agent. So we'll have to make that decision. And then Steve, told Trey he would help with the transition until we're all done. So that's basically that. Let's see. I've got a balance sheet we can go through.
With Army having all these records,
I
do
seem
you
to be
all,
one
or at
short.
least one or two of you, have access to those records?
I'm sorry, say again?
With Army having all these records now, we're gonna turn it over to them. Do you all, or at least one or two of you, have access to those records?
Only
Those
if
records will be on their system.
we have to ask.
We have to ask. We don't have access, we don't have
Okay, we've
electronic
been burnt
access.
twice in this HOA. When we dissolved something, it happened to Dominion, whatever that was, and the other ones, then all of a sudden, when we ask for records, we don't get them all. So if you don't have access, and we decide we don't like Army for whatever reason, and they say, okay, screw you, and they don't want to get so. I brought this up before when we went with Army, that somehow we got to be able to retain a string on those records, that in case something happens. Twice now we've been burnt, Emil, not once, twice. By the company going away and us not getting all the files.
The first company that went away was Dominion Management, and
Right.
they were incompetent. And that was the real problem.
Well, okay. But we didn't get the records,
I
right?
don't think, we got some, what little records they made, right? And I don't think we got burned at all by Sequoia that I'm aware of.
I heard
So I think probably the best thing to do, if you don't mind, Steve, is, since I'm gonna be the treasurer,
Yeah,
is
yeah, you-
why don't I work with Army to figure out something,
A way
that-
to give us insight. and
Yeah,
such,
yeah. Well,
That's good.
it's a valid point.
Yeah, I'm sure that can be worked.
It's a valid point.
What are you asking
Okay.
for from them, Larry?
I don't care who, but I think.
No, I mean from the fiduciary, which is who they are. What are you asking for that they
Access to
provide?
that.
Yeah.
Some level
I
of
think-
transparency on it?
I
They
think,
should be the only ones
what
that
if-
have access to it.
what if, you know, once a month, you know, like Steve, to your point, years ago.
They're the stewards of our finances, so they're gonna have some sort of contingency plan in place in order to address whatever our financial condition is. I mean, and we're gonna have, it isn't gonna be a situation where if we wanna look at it, we have to ask them. We're gonna have autonomy to see and do whatever it is that we wanna do and see and act. They're the ones that are gonna be asking permission from us as to what to do with our financial
Well,
situation.
that's what he's saying.
So that's, yeah.
That's not what he's saying.
We're gonna find out.
Right,
Yeah,
his
we're gonna
question.
find out without question.
Yeah.
And if it's not satisfactory, then it's either gonna become satisfactory or we're gonna change.
Peace.
Well, we have a 2-year
All right,
contract.
So, on the balance sheet, so I get the balance sheet out here. So the money that Army now has, or as of June 30th, was $23,225. And the money in the reserves was $196,532.48. Okay, that they're now controlling that. And then the accounts receivable, the semi-annual dues that haven't been paid yet is $3,570. So that's about all that's, I guess, interesting on the balance sheet. We've got, this is the check register with detail. So some of the papers, so I just asked them to send me the stuff that they usually provide for a monthly report and for the monthly board meetings. And it is different than we used to produce for ourselves, okay? But this is the checks that were basically written, and the first grouping of checks was voided out because it was done incorrectly. And the second grouping of checks, they're both done on the same day, but the second grouping was correct, and I looked at this and it all made sense according to their contract. It's the management fee for the covenants and covenants inspections and the notices that were sent out. Okay, so there's a $9 charge for each notice that gets sent out. Then they actually charged us for that meeting to have the finance discussion.
Oh, they did.
So, yeah. So I guess I looked in, and $350 is what they charge for a meeting. The meeting lasted probably less than an hour, but they have a minimum of $350. And then there's a transition fee of $350. All that's in their contract, and then the management fee for the month of June. Okay. So those are the checks that they essentially wrote from our account to themselves. Okay. The next thing I have is this is the income and expenses by category. Did I give you? Are these both the same or are they different? No, they're probably different. Okay. I did it again. I'm one short.
Derek's not reading them anyways, just typing.
Well, but he can have them for later. That's
So
tight.
as you'll see, most of it is zero because they haven't loaded the data yet.
Okay.
All right. So they have to populate this in order to really help us know how much we have to spend, right? But I looked at the budget and they move things around a little bit, but it adds up to what our budget was that we set this year. So we really won't have the full picture of how we're doing against the budget until they
Right.
load all this.
Okay.
All right, which is quite a bit of a concern since we were planning on making some decisions on spending some money today. And I have concerns about that because of this.
Did they give you any idea of when they think they can have it populated for us?
No, I kind of expected it to be done by now, but at the time they just said, on June 25th when I met with them, they didn't give an outline. So what I did do though, this is from our QuickBooks, okay? So this doesn't have anything that Army has done.
That's good. This is a good idea.
Here's another one. But so this is what we have spent in each of our categories. So we can look at the total amounts that we have spent, compare them to the budget, and get a rough idea where we're at. Okay. what I did notice is that, you know, for some of the items like gate and camera maintenance, we're about $1,000 over our budget already. So we've already spent our entire budget plus another 1,000. On legal, we're 2,700 under. And we will overspend our management fee because, you know, we transitioned from Sequoia to Army
Right.
and we have more services now. And so that's gonna cost more. But I'm not sure the exact amount. We'd have to, you know, add all that up. And I really think that we probably need to give ourselves a month or two to just see how things are before we know how much money we really have, because we're right caught in the middle of the transition at this
Right.
time. Okay. Now they gave me one other thing, which they call the ledger summary, but I think the information that's in here is redundant. Oh shoot.
It's okay.
Redundant with the other information that we have. So I don't think there's anything really to report on that. And that's basically it.
Okay.
What were the items you were looking, you said you were just gonna discuss, items that you were looking to spend money on?
We're gonna go through that
Yeah,
when
they're
we
all-
discuss
they're-
maintenance.
They're all coming up.
It's all coming. It's a coming.
It's good.
So I think that's it for the treasurer's report, unless there's
Yeah,
any
I'm just-
questions.
No, I'm just looking at the, I'm just looking at our quick calendar thing.
Yeah. Like I said, we don't have the full picture yet, so.
So is this from Army here?
That's from Army, yeah. Everything
So-
except the one page is from
Do
Army.
they have all of the account side information posted at this point?
They have all of our accounts. So you'll see that on the balance sheet. They have, I think I saw it on the balance sheet. They listed all the specific accounts. And we're really talking about a bunch of CDs, a money market, and 3 CDs, a money market, and then our operating account, our checking
Correct.
account. That's it.
Okay. All right, Jeff, the ARB update and new committee member.
A new committee member, Dave Biedner, reached out, and I think he submitted everyone. I'd like to have some help after a few years. Just reviewing stuff and catching up and checking up if I'm traveling or out of town. Dominic, you're sitting here. You can throw your name in too if you like, but
For the ARB?
You want
It
to
should be more
volunteer
than,
being a
you
part of
know-
the ARB membership?
Is that what you drink me here?
Yeah.
What's the ARB gotta do?
we report to the board on guidelines for the community, mostly the beautification standards, from mowing to roadways to weed eating to the big thing that we deal with is I've had it like your
application.
building. You came to me and we went over it and we discussed, and you got the siding right, and we went back and forth on it and get it approved before it's done to submit things.
I could assist.
Yeah,
Okay, so we have
that's a
2
big
people.
part of it, okay? And I mean, I've been, Chance did it, Steve's done it,
And
and it's a thankless job
I've
in
never
a lot
been
of
in an
ways.
HOA, this is the first time, and I'm just trying to learn, so.
We'll get used to
I'll
your
help you, and
accent.
it'll be, start of learning.
So, that's the one. There's another inspection that's gonna be coming up, but I have no idea when in July from Army. There's no schedule.
So if I can make a motion, I'd like to move that both Dominic and Dave Biedner be appointed to the ARB.
I'll second it.
Cool.
I think it's approved.
Congratulations.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You have help, Jeff.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, and everybody has different experiences, and that's important. It's really important. You can bring the Staten Island.
Well, I will say to his credit, we have built and filed permits and
Yeah.
2 homes from the.
Well, you're down in
general
Carolinas and all
contractors.
over the place, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean,
It's not like the fence
he
painting
doesn't come
and
with
stuff
0.
like that.
He's not gonna start at 0, but
Yeah, no,
certainly not 0.
Yeah,
again, I don't know how much fencing we have, I don't know
Yeah.
a lot of the things that, you know, that
Yeah.
we need to maintain here yet.
yeah.
But I'm sure you know, you've been here long enough.
All right, maintenance and, gate,
Yeah.
landscape, Maybe
Chance, I
Jeff
want you to
Chance.
chime in a little bit on the,
You have the log?
yeah, do we wanna go through some of the,
yeah.
Yeah, so I forgot to print out the log. I apologize for that. I was running out of the house. So we don't have a lot of open items right now on the maintenance log, right? So 2 we're going to talk about tonight: the power washing and the fence painting. The big maintenance thing, I guess, is the exit loop. And we have to kind of decide what we want to do with that exit loop. Do we want to spend the money to have them repair the furthest away exit loop and potentially have that break again because it's broken a couple of times now? Do we want to explore going to a photo eye like you suggested, or some sort of above ground system, which has its own risks? It could be damaged by a number of things. Or do we say that's a problem for next year because we don't really have the money to do anything right now because we have other competing priorities, and people just have to understand that until we make a finalized decision, they're just going to have to use the close end exit, the closer exit loop, and just pull closer to the gate. I mean, those are really our only options, and if
Is it working right now?
the close, there are 2 exit loops, right? There's one that's, I don't know, 50 yards back or 25 yards back, and there's one that's like 10 feet from the gate. You have to pull up to the close one, stop there, the gate will open and won't hit your car, and then you can drive out, versus never really having to stop.
Well, that's for the free exit. I mean, if you pull up and use your clicker, it still opens the gate as
That's
you're
true.
pulling
Yeah,
up, right?
that's another option.
Exiting.
People can
Yes.
use their clicker to exit as well.
So go ahead.
everybody has a clicker, obviously.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why can't they just put a wireless transmitter on one of the bollards?
You mean another one, Steve, a second?
Not everybody has a clicker.
Right, so when you have multiple people who want to
He's over here. He's like, got a clicker somewhere.
When you're riding a motorcycle, you don't have a third hand and a clicker. So I don't have a clicker on my motorcycle.
Well, but you also have multiple people in households with multiple cars, so I didn't
Yeah.
purchase 5 clickers for all my kids and my,
Cars.
Well,
every
I can buy you one.
I mean,
I'm not bothered by the close loop, to be
all right,
quite
so-
frank with you.
so,
I didn't notice a difference.
I mean, that's an option, you could do that, but, that doesn't solve that problem.
but you also have the issue of vendors and stuff coming out who, or just visitors,
Well, we
It
have,
does
look,
seem
can I, that's a long run, you're right. It's probably the asphalt moving and the wire stretching and whatever's
That's
going on.
twice now we've had to.
And it's a long run.
Well, it's happened
One
twice
option
at
is
Log
to-
Mill and once at Sanders.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, to shorten it up so that it's not as big of a run, or it's not, moving as much.
Yeah, but that's still gonna cost.
I know.
That's still gonna
Yeah.
cost $1,000.
Can I make a suggestion? One of you give Ken a call at Force and ask him how much an active LiDAR mount on the top would cost. That's what he uses on the high reliable. It's actually a light beam, but it's pulsed. It senses something where it's at, sends it back. It's called an active LiDAR.
Yeah.
They're highly reliable stuff now.
So where do you attach it?
What's that?
Where do you attach it?
Well, I would suggest that it would be mounted on the brick column, the side of the brick column, and pointed at the oncoming people.
It's an elaborate
Now, the only
solution.
problem with
So
that
break
is
it,
I don't know, Ken would have to tell you if it'll tell the difference between a person and a car. The trouble is the active LiDAR might even open on, a deer running across, might set that off.
Okay,
That wouldn't be terrible though.
I guess
Derek,
my-
you'll
I
take
don't
that?
think
That wouldn't
deer
be
are
that
gonna be a
bad.
big problem.
Well, yeah, the deer could go out easier than we have to.
I guess my thought is we've only had, what's coming, Mid-Atlantic, look at that, is that true?
That is true.
So I mean, my thought would be, why don't we table and have other, like you say, let's
Yeah,
have
get-
force,
get-
let's
get some
have
options.
other
Yeah, we have
gate
to, yeah.
companies,
Get some
let's,
options.
let's look at some other options,
The other thing
just
is,
in
we didn't
general.
have a free exit that was in front of Steve's house. That was a two-way gate. So it's kind of you guys, the
Yeah, but you had a
choices.
keypad there. too.
I agree, but
Well,
now
yeah,
you're going back to
we
that
need that
option.
keypad.
The push punching in a keypad on the inside, then it's hardwired.
yeah, but,
Then the keypad.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're talking about,
I understand, I'm
Well,
just,
why-
I'm just
the
telling
wire
you,
is
that
accessible.
keypad is
The
operational.
wires that are breaking, are they accessible?
Help me understand the
Down an
problem.
asphalt cut.
It-
I'm,
you have a-
I'm lost
they're in
at
the
understanding.
you have a
actual
wire
the
that's
problem.
running under the asphalt,
Right,
and the asphalt expands and contracts, and
Right.
it breaks the wire.
right, but I understand the technical issue. I'm not following, right now, when you drive up to the gate opens. So there
Cross
seems
that-
to be, a technicality that there are two tripwires, I guess, one further away and one closer. And right now, we're not locked in our community. Anyone who's here can get out
Correct.
and the gate opens
Yep.
to exit.
Yeah.
It's functioning. So I'm not understanding the problem that it's the closer one that's functioning.
Right, well,
Like, I'm not understanding the problem.
It's really close to when the gate opens.
Yeah, it's not, it's not
It's
that
not
it's
really a, it's
You're
not
right,
really
yeah,
a problem.
It's not that it's a problem, it's
convenience.
whether or not the community wants to pay to either have a
Right,
new
right.
solution in place for, so they don't have to stop at the gate, they can just continue driving. Like when you're going out the Sanders gate, you don't really have to stop, you just kind of,
Right.
I mean, you can't be doing 50,
roll.
but as you
Well,
roll
I
through,
slow
you
down
know.
because I don't know when the gate's gonna open.
The loop that is currently opening the gate right now
Yes.
is actually a loop that prevents the gate from closing on the car as the car is exiting the gate. It's not
Okay.
technically a design, it's not technically a loop that you're supposed to pull up and the gate opens.
Right.
It's a loop that
Actually,
prevents,
actually, that's not true. Sean told me that loop right there at the bollard, that is all they put at gates. They don't do long runs like we have.
then, please accept my apologies because
No,
I
but I
just
understand
I just
the
lied to you.
convenience,
No,
right? And then
I don't
I
mean
just
that
it's
way, but
$1,000
then if that,
to fix it.
I don't know, then
Well,
my,
that's the
my
quote we
question,
have?
my question would be, you know, why did they put a loop so close to the gate in the first place?
Well, I can't answer that one, but both of
Because
them
they
are
knew the
that way.
long one would fail.
Well, as long as
Yeah,
it
'cause
doesn't hit your vehicle, it doesn't
Clearly.
really
Well,
matter, right?
Yeah, what we have now is workable, and maybe in the future, we can look at LiDAR and other things. We really don't have the money to address this now.
I know, I vote
That's
we
what I
just,
think-
I make a motion, we table it
Yeah,
until next year.
but I'd like to make
Because
one point.
we don't
It's
have the
happened
money.
more than once, it's in the same spot or same general area, we know where the problem may be. Let's say it broke in the same corner, then maybe we can look at that as well, because I don't think anybody knows when they repaired it where the problems were at.
No, I don't think they investigate that. I think they just put a new one in.
Well, they have to test it, Emil, they can ping it to see
Yeah.
where the wires,
They
if
should
the
be able to
circuit is
see what
broken,
fault
they
is.
gotta know to
What's
do
it to
that.
the log mill gate
Huh?
at the moment?
So the
Right
log,
now,
the
yeah.
log mill gate has broken twice
Right.
in the same issue, and then the Sanders gate has broken once in the last year.
But, so currently though, it's the log mill
Log mill gate, yes.
Yeah.
So does anybody know exactly where the wires are breaking?
That's what I just brought up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think Mid-Atlantic,
It's somewhere in the asphalt.
yeah,
Is it
Mid-Atlantic.
in-
Right,
Is it
um,
actually in the asphalt?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So they actually have to cut the asphalt
Yeah,
to fix it?
they just run another wire.
they pull there's like a soft, like a caulking,
They're gonna
so they
cut
dig
it.
that out, put a new wire in.
Probably on a corner or something where it's
Who
breaking,
knows?
but we don't know.
Alright.
All right, go
It's
on to the
it's
next,
somewhat
on to the
accessible,
next, yeah, I'm sorry, Dominic.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all right, go on to the,
Because I could,
what was the next, item on there?
So you have power
So we'll
washing
go
and
ahead,
fence
we'll go ahead and
painting.
table the, we'll go ahead and table the,
Still we can have other
the-
vendors
yeah,
look at it.
yeah, we'll just get some other.
Look at other options.
Yeah, rain garden.
Well, we're doing the power washing and
Okay.
fence.
Yeah, so, two of the, open items that we've got some quotes for, were painting and pressure washing. Ended up getting 3 quotes for painting. All of them looked, sufficient. We ended up getting 5 quotes for pressure washing. I gave you the thing, Steve. Did you get it?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
I emailed it to him too.
Oh, okay. So the one of the quotes for painting, Pro Edge, came in at like half of the other 2, but actually gave us the best quote. It was very specific about what they would do to remove old paint. The product they were going to lay down, which I looked up, and it's a really, really good product. You know, so they gave a really good quote, and they were like half the price. So they came in at $1,300. The other one of them came in at $3,000. The other one came in at $2,650. So quite the price difference. All of that being said, I don't know if we have the budget for it. Right?
Is that 1 gate or 2 gates?
That is just the log mill gate, or not log mill, just the Sanders gate, both pedestrian gates, and the 4 bollards, or however many, 2 bollards, 4, whatever, how many bollards are out there. They're going to paint those 2.
So it's Sanders only.
Sanders only, right? We didn't investigate doing painting on the log mill gate because it is so new. I mean, not to say that it probably couldn't use a paint job, but you know, in the interest of cost savings, we shouldn't probably. Plus, if we offset them in different years, it's maybe easier to budget. I don't know, it's less of a hit. So I guess we have to kind of decide whether or not we want to push forward with painting, or we want to push it off until we can do a, you know, review the budget.
So my opinion is that we're really tight on money, and we don't have a complete picture right now. We've got enough of a picture to know we're tight. Although this is very attractive, and actually I think painting the fence is probably one of our highest priorities, because we want to, it's just going to rust, and that's bad. Right. If we could kick this down the road.
The fence or the gate?
The gate. Okay. The gate. I meant to say the gate. If we can kick this down the road until we get better data from Army, we'd be a little bit more comfortable about spending it.
Also, so you guys know, this also includes the fences on either side that go into your property and your neighbor's property. So
for $1,300 with the paint and everything.
With the paint and everything, all the prep work.
Fence and gate.
Fence and gate.
Yeah, especially that gate.
Yeah, and they're using.
How long will they hold that price for?
Fence? The
Yeah.
wood fence?
Yeah.
Get out of here. I didn't see that.
Yeah. They'll do 2 coats of jet black fence, jet coat, which is a product, black fence paint, which is jet coat's like.
Well, you said you checked that out.
Standard. Well, jet coat is just like standard. That's like the fence paint that like every 4-board fence uses. Okay. And then I checked out the polycryl primer and the Cheryl Krill marine acrylic from Sherwin-Williams, the product that they said they would use.
And that's for the gate?
For the gate, and those are both really legit. They're also the only one that said they would use a primer. The other 2 didn't specify, but we would obviously clarify before we.
Right.
I would want a more, both of the Betzel and Sanchez. Well, you talked to Sanchez. That was your folks.
Yeah, he's my.
But Betzel told me they would give me a kind of a generic quote for the job, and then a more detailed quote that would, with all the product and everything.
How long is the quote good for?
Most of them said 30 days. It was about 25 days ago that we did this. So, but I'm optimistic that we could probably get similar pricing, right? I don't think that they're going to wildly change their prices. I mean, they could, but that is.
Yeah, we happen to be really close.
You actually brought up another point to see if the community would want to take that out of, because it is maintenance.
Yeah, I was wrong though. I think
the maintenance shouldn't come out of reserves.
Yeah, it should.
I know.
That should not be done.
Yeah, no, I was wrong in thinking that because it was gate maintenance.
I don't think it can.
I don't think it can.
No, it can't. That's what. Yeah, it cannot.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
because I
It's
thought
really for capital items and replacements.
Yeah, I thought capital items meaning, maintaining a capital item would qualify, but no, I was wrong.
Is there any room in anything in the budget for any part of it?
We don't really know.
Well, I mean, again, this could be tabled again for the next meeting until until we get those detailed finances all loaded into their
That's
system.
what I recommend, and I don't know, it'll take, I'm not sure when they'll
Yeah.
have that, but it shouldn't take them a month. I mean, they've had time.
Well, they like to charge the money, so put a little pressure on.
Yeah.
It's true. What are your thoughts, Steve?
Okay, and what, landscaping, I mean, Blue Ridge was just out, they were doing some work, down at the Sanders, entrance. I don't know why I didn't see them out at Log Mill. Any updates on anything that they're doing?
They're just doing their scheduled maintenance.
Okay,
Yeah.
there's some dead trees that are down at the Sanders, entrance that they have not addressed in quite a while. Do we have any idea what
Is
they're
that
doing with that?
is that by the fence and the gate?
Correct.
The,
There's
the
there's
myrtles?
there's two crepe myrtles and there's a spruce over on Chow's side that are bad shape.
Are those in Blue Ridge's contract to remove, or is that something we have to pay additional?
I think
I don't know.
we'll have to pay additional
I
for
mean,
that. It's not part of their contract.
I'll take a shovel down there. Fix
Well,
They're not totally dead. The crepe myrtles we can
How
just
big
cut
are
back.
the crepe
That's-
myrtle,
that's
the
the
crepe
trick.
myrtles are dead except for
Yeah,
just
shovel man
some
those, depends how big they are.
saplings down around the bottom.
Right there
I
on
can-
your property?
No, they're within the easement.
That's those ones you're talking about on that side.
Yeah.
Correct.
They
Yeah.
die back on
They
the
just die
top,
back.
right?
You just
What you'd have to do is remove all the old wood is what you'd have to do.
Yeah.
Well, the crepe myrtles. There's no saving the crepe myrtle. Crepe myrtle's dead all the way down to the ground.
What size?
So at any rate, I mean, if
The big, small?
I can go down there and pull it out. But if it was in the purview of Blue Ridge in order to do that, which I didn't know, they
No,
should be
it's
taking
not.
care of it. If it's not, then
Yeah.
that's.
No, it's not.
one
I
thing.
don't think because we had gotten a quote for them for something else about trees, and there was a line item for them to remove trees, and it was an additional cost.
So
Okay.
I did send out, I asked them to give me cost on removing some trees.
Yeah.
And I don't have that email with me, but there was a cost to that.
Do we have any idea we don't know what it was?
I can forward the email to
Okay.
you.
All right, do we have any, I don't wanna belabor this, but, any updates on the pedestrian gate at Log Mill? And the auto closure, will we move forward with that at all?
No,
Nothing
Jeff
on
was
that
Jeff
at
was
all?
gonna do something on that for me,
Yeah, it's not.
but
Okay.
unfortunately, it's one of those things that kind of stayed over like it
Spend the
did.
next time I
that's
spend a lot of
last
time
time.
on, which we can get to in a minute, so,
Yeah, and that's fine,
Yeah.
just as long as it's somewhere where.
yeah.
Yeah, we're aware, yeah.
Okay, social committee, I'm assuming there's nothing
We
on
need to
that
go
at
through
this
this
point.
now.
Hold on a second, we gotta talk about pressure washing real quick.
Okay,
Sorry. So
okay, I'm sorry, I missed that.
yeah, no worries. So we had the painting. That's one thing. Separate is pressure washing. We had a bunch of quotes kind of span between basically $200 and $700. Blue Ridge is offering to do both gates, Sanders and Log Mill. Both monuments and the brick columns that support the gate for $405 for both entrances, which is by far the best deal. The closest thing we got was Nova Pro Wash, which was just for Sanders, which is obviously the one that looks the rattiest right now. And that was $300 for the one monument and columns. So I don't know. I don't know if
I feel
anybody.
like that should be another
Yeah.
push until we see what the budget, you know what I mean, because we could have all that information together then.
Agree. I mean, yeah, I don't disagree. They're same thing with this. Their quotes are only good for X number of days, but
Oh.
once again, I'm sure.
Probably be.
Well, even if we said yes to one of these, we'd probably be expired by the time I send them an email. But nonetheless, I don't think the prices are going to wildly change. They're not going to quote me $400 one time and $700 the next time, right?
Yeah.
If they do, then we'll go to the next person. So yeah, so unless anybody has a large water tank and compressor and commercial power washer, we're
Yeah,
you do have that, or have access to that.
You can pretty much rent anything.
Yeah, you can rent things, but you start renting stuff, it winds up being more
It's
than,
so
if it's more than
costly.
Yeah,
$200, then it's not worth.
It's not worth
doing
doing
it.
most of the time, especially you got both fences in that and everything for $400. I think that's probably a decent deal.
Yeah, it's not, in this case, it's not the labor, and it's not the maintenance committee or the ARB
Yeah.
or just community volunteers not wanting to do it, it's that nobody had, what we felt was the requisite equipment.
Right.
So, I've got a pressure,
I thought Amanda and,
well, they have a pressure
They
washer.
have a pressure
But they
washer.
don't, we
There's
have
no
to get
tank.
water down there.
No,
No water.
150 gallon tank.
Yeah, so, I don't know if, not volunteering you, but I don't know if a water hose from your house would provide enough pressure to power a pressure washer to
You know
clean
what?
off the gate and be able
Well-
to stretch all the way to the monument.
Mine doesn't,
yeah,
mine doesn't,
that's.
I got a little electric
That's a
one,
long
there's not
run.
enough pressure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, I mean, getting a pressure washer is not the hard part. It's literally getting the water
So
down
this,
there.
so Blue Ridge was $400 for both of them.
Correct, because they just do it.
No.
I mean,
They just want somebody to supply the water, so if they can.
No,
hook them out-
not Blue Ridge.
Blue Ridge doesn't.
No, Blue Ridge is going to bring their own
Yeah,
water
bring it
because
in.
they just do all their
That's even
properties.
better.
Tell
So do it.
them to just do it. Tell them to do it.
I mean, if we think we have the money, then I think we should do that. But is spending $400 going to put us in a tighter pinch, right? If we think that it's not, then we vote for it. If we think it is, then maybe we table it. I don't know.
Well, look, I mean, there are certain things that we are obligated to do.
I don't
And
disagree.
spending spending $405 in order to do one of the things that we are obligated to do is maintaining the entrance features in this neighborhood is a small, let's get it done.
Although I agree with you, we're really obligated to do all these things.
I agree,
And,
but.
and there's only so much money.
I agree, but the entrance features here, we've spent a lot of money on them,
Oh, yeah.
a lot of money, and they're front and center.
Oh, yeah.
And they're one of the most
yeah.
visible things that are in here.
Absolutely.
And to spend $400 in order to make them look presentable for the people that are coming into the community is a small price to pay, I think, in order to get them looking presentable.
It absolutely is.
So, it's my opinion that we just go ahead and get
It
it
is,
done.
it's nothing really.
Yeah, it's nothing. It
All right,
is.
well then I motion to contract Blue Ridge to clean both Sanders and
Is it the
Logsville
pillars and the entrance fees?
pillars and monuments.
That's,
Get it done.
All right,
Yeah.
I made a motion.
I second it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree.
I got one.
All right, shoot.
I need her to pull this up on the screen for you
Yeah,
guys.
it's, I don't know what happened, it's not responding.
Hit the power button on this.
Sorry, Derek.
It's okay.
While you're doing that, what's the chances of sending a note out to the community? I, for one, would be willing to kick in a few extra bucks to get the gate painted at that price that you said, not having to worry about it coming from the budget. I mean, if you send out a nice friendly letter that says we're running low, blah, blah, blah,
I third it.
what?
I agree.
Just, you're asking for volunteers.
Yeah, I mean, it would
Just
have to be-
donations.
It would have to be very clear that it is donation and it's not an assessment.
Yeah, an
yada, yada,
assessment
yada.
requires 2/3 vote.
Well, I,
Well, I know. I'm just saying. We don't want to get
what,
called
what'd you
for
say it was to?
$1,308.
Did I do
Three
that?
people.
Well, if we go for
Yeah, I don't
that
think we
company,
did.
which I mean,
Yeah, I know, but
Yeah,
13 people give $100, you're done, right?
it's true.
Maybe it got pulled out.
You got 50 in the community.
Yeah, it got pulled out.
Okay. Oh, wait a second. Do you have the one set of pictures that I gave you over there?
Yeah, I do.
Hand that to someone over there. All right, so there's been a lot of discussion about the rain gardens, a lot concern. I said it to Chance and to Tony the other night this, but I want everyone to look at this, to go over it. On these, I reached out to the county, the Environmental Services Division, which is the watershed management. She's pulling this up, so what is pulling it? I guess it would
I
be-
might.
Just gotta get the keyboard.
Am I right there? You got it? Who did you reach out to again, Jeff?
Environmental Services Division at Prince William County. It's part of their watershed management. They are the branch that oversees
Type
Part
a
of public-
letter and I'll.
Is it
public
there?
works down.
I don't think,
That
you probably have to bring
oversees
your mouse
the
down.
rain gardens
Click on
and
it.
all of the runoff and all of that stuff.
It's hard to do backwards,
It's hard to
Donna.
do from
It's
there.
Drive me,
Yeah,
get me there.
hold on.
Well, I hope the county's not
Okay,
gonna
you're
be
there.
picky when they weren't picky
Is
on
it-
how
is it
horrible.
Oh, no, it's
I'll
not.
go over it.
Yeah.
All right, just
I did,
figure it
my
out,
dad
Jeff.
coaches
We've got
me.
too much to do.
You can't put those in the way they were designed.
Well,
Can you,
Is it a-
unplug it and replug it?
Is it a number or is it?
So is it in the spot?
Yeah.
It's in the spot.
Are you looking for a number or a password?
I'm typing in the password.
Oh, okay.
There's nothing there?
No, it's not going.
Your keyboard's not connected.
You can pull the mouse out and switch them if you want. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, it's dead. Nonetheless,
Steve's got it.
We got-
Can
we got-
you-
we got-
can
we
you
got a
hold
hard
this
count.
up, those pictures, until she gets that. What
No, I'm not
I
gonna-
did, to let everyone know, Larry, you asked this question. These pictures here are two of each of the rain gardens in the community. I drove around and took this, okay? So I contacted the county. Environmental Services is who oversees these things, okay? It's watershed runoff. So there's two of each. There are 10 rain gardens in the community. So I sent these to Mark Colwell, and it went to Raj Badal, who's Public Works, and a lot of people.
You wanna look?
And they explain quite a bit about these things. Our rain gardens were spec'd in 2002. That's where the specs come from, okay? What the goal, attainment goal, is these are water filtration devices. Like Chance's in his front, water will come down a ditch, run in, sit there for 12 hours. The trees pick up microbes, bacteria, fungus, whatever's in there, and filter. These are set up for 40% filtration. And that is based on 70 to 75% foliage coverage relative to the size of the dry pond. Okay? Now, I can tell you that the county is absolutely not concerned about how pretty they are. They want them maintained. Functionality is the most important criteria. Water filtration is what they're looking for. These are dry basins. The original planting schedule 15 years ago was based on 70-75% coverage of the size of the plants then, not now. So now what we have, like in Steve's up front, the trees are 35 feet tall now. You've got 8 or 9 trees, only 5 were planted. Mother Nature put a few tulip poplars in there on top of it. So what the county did is I sent them an email on July the 9th, said, hello Mark, thanks for sending, they sent me the DEQ, Department of Environmental Quality. It's this long state document that kind of covers all of this stuff on how these things are done. But I asked him a question. I said, do you have any feedback regarding the pictures I sent to you on our rain gardens, which is what you have right there. I said, I asked my father about the natural versus ornamental rain gardens. It says this on the plat, that there's natural and ornamental. Nobody at the county knew what this was. So my dad looked at it, and one like Marquardt's, which is at grade and no sculpting, is a natural rain garden where it's a natural depression. Steve's, Pete's, and others are sculpted, where they took equipment and formed these. So those are more ornamental. So on this, I said the board meeting is coming up, and I'd like to provide them an update on what needs to be done at this point to make sure we're compliant with the county. Did you have a question?
No, I was rubbing my eye.
Okay. So also, we removed the weak and diseased shrubs from Garden 6. That's Tony Drossos down the street with the stuff with that. He got back to me on July the 10th, a day later, and said, Jeff, based on the photos taken, the rain gardens look to be in great shape and well maintained. As we discussed, Public Works will periodically inspect these. I asked him what that meant. EPA is now starting to mandate these things when they're in place. 5-year rotation on inspections. So as of right now, he said, if we notice any problems, we'll contact you. Please keep up the good work, exclamation point. You can contact me if you have any questions. I said, thanks, Mark, we'll stay on it. And the board and the ARB appreciate your help and feedback. The county took the pictures. I offered for them to come out and look at them. They declined because the pictures show that they're maintained. Now, the one thing that's important to note is they may have had a lot of small plants in the beginning and small trees. Now the trees are huge. And what they look at is some of these rain gardens, a lot of them are 100-130% coverage of foliage, which means the root mat goes out. And there's never any standing water for more than about 12 hours in most of these because it's being picked up, which is what they want. They looked at the pictures to see if there's any erosion on ingress and egress going in and out. No issues. They applauded everyone for the 2-year maintenance. It's only one is what's required.
You mean twice a year?
Twice a year to maintain them, to clean it up, remove dead stuff, whatever. They didn't stipulate anything on any plantings at all. Now, there's a wide variance of what's in there. And it's gonna cost a shitload of money, honestly, to go to some of these to beautify them, which is really what you're doing. Because the county came right out and said, keep doing what you're doing. Okay, so I'll forward this to everyone so that you all can figure out what you wanna do. But the reason on this is that with reserve studies being required, you don't have to build anything in right now as far as a planning schedule until they tell you at this point. So I'll forward this to everyone, but on it, it's kind of up to you if you want to beautify and spend thousands of dollars on plants or not, if you don't have the budget. But I went through it, and they basically gave us a clean bill, and I offered for them to come out and meet any of us on maintenance or whatever. And the PowerPoint that was put together on there was to show them, and most of them don't, most communities don't.
Right, you need to land a plane.
Well, they don't maintain it this way, is the point. That's what they basically said.
Okay, so just real quick, get it, that's great. That's the whole point of a reserve study by a professional reserve study company. They're gonna come in, they're gonna do a reserve study based upon the needs and the study based upon DEQ and whatever, and what you need rather than a beautification or whatever. So that's the whole point. So
And they take-
I applaud you
you're right,
for doing
so-
that.
yeah.
I applaud you for doing that. That's great. We don't need to be stuffing money away into a reserve budget.
I'm not saying we are, I'm saying we don't have to.
No, I know. We don't need to be
Okay.
stuffing
Right, well,
money
there's
away into that.
clarification now, is
Yeah.
what you're saying,
Yeah.
which
We don't
is
need to be doing
awesome.
that, but we need to be putting money in there based upon something.
What you need to do, correct.
So
So-
that's it.
But this was
what
a big
we-
concern on it.
That was a good
When,
news story.
when the time comes to do a reserve, when the time comes to do a reserve study, we need to make sure that whoever does that study is aware of what you have found out.
Well, yeah, and the county even defers to professional engineers on recommendations. If it's a PE, they defer to this on recommendation because they design these things, okay? So on this, on a reserve study, if you take it to someone, as board president or whatever, and say, we have this, they're gonna take this, they can call the county says, they don't need to do anything right now.
So, I mean, and that's all part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all part
But
of
it's
it.
good news is
And
what I'm
that's-
trying to say.
So, but that's great because that's what we've been advocating for.
Well, it took a little bit of,
I know, but that's what we've been advocating for.
Well,
That's the
and-
whole, that was the whole point of
yeah,
the
and
whole
it
exercise.
took, Steve, I didn't go blogs, I went right to the county. And asked.
That's great.
And they came back and they looked at the pictures and they gave us a clean bill of health is what they basically
Okay.
did.
Excellent,
that's it.
great work.
I second the grade.
Where are we? Where was this?
Sorry.
on here?
Social committee.
Okay,
It's
social,
just under
I think you
maintenance.
were-
okay, social committee, anything,
We had a volunteer for social committee?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Do it to it.
Well, I wrote my name down on the form at the annual meeting, and I guess the person in charge
fantastic, you're hired.
isn't here. And I haven't been
Suck those
contacted.
both in, dear.
And I said the best way to contact me would be via text
They
messaging.
sucked us both in here.
So happens when you show up to a meeting.
So, at that note, I did bring cannolis to the annual meeting. I don't know how they were
They
made.
were good. They were
Yeah.
And they
I
were
saw
good.
Derek over
I was just saying, I may have had more than one, I'm just saying.
Pocket.
May have.
Who's the person in charge? Is that Jen?
I will put the two of you together, how about that?
Sounds good.
Wait, who's the two?
Well, it's more than two. It's Jen is the
And,
chairperson.
And,
I
And
think
Lee,
Lee's in
Safar,
there.
Yeah, I thought
myself,
yeah,
and
That's why I was gonna tell her to talk to my wife, she's the
Okay.
social one. I'm unsociable.
I'm more than happy to cook for an army.
What time do you need me?
Yeah.
okay, Derek, anything on, Donna, anything on the,
From
well, we
security,
just talked
Derek will
about
do
the,
so
the,
the-
he'll do the camera.
yeah, so from the security standpoint, we did suffer another, well, we almost suffered, we had another lightning strike in this last round of storms that came through. But our new system, again, another good news story, our system did absorb it and shut down the Sanders cameras appropriately. It appears that it also shut down the keypad.
But that's strange that,
I don't-
Yes.
that it could still access the
I don't know.
code, but the other two.
Yeah, that part I
was
don't know,
strange,
but I went out, I rebooted the system, and everything came right back up as planned.
Yeah,
So,
no, that's great, that's
I-
great.
I did not get a chance to go back out, because obviously we have it on, there's also a small battery backup in there, so that was dead, and so when I rebooted it, that was an alarm. It takes some time, like a day to recharge that. I haven't been back out to see if the battery backup actually did recharge. If it didn't recharge, all that means is that, okay, the batteries are essentially dead, and we either need to replace the unit or replace the batteries. But that the power surge capability is still there.
Okay,
And we've already talked about the exit loops.
all right, so do you wanna talk to, Mid-Atlantic about what they would conceivably charge to put that keypad, that exit keypad back in?
We have a number on that, don't we?
Yeah, we have a number on that. You mean the
The one that
The
we,
push button? The one that's
that we took,
broken?
the one that we took out?
Somebody
The one
took
that
out.
I took out I still have?
oh, you're saying the whole unit? Or are you just saying the keypad?
I have, remember the keypad that we had to use at Sanders in order to punch in a code in order
Yeah.
to get out of the gate before we had the gate, the log mill gate?
Mhm.
Oh, I still have that. And we were discussing
Keeping it or? okay.
doing something with it. You had mentioned something about putting it down at log mill for,
Well,
so
no,
people could get out in case they're,
Well, the one I was talking about in log mill is the one that's already there on the Ballard.
oh, okay, all right, well, never mind.
Okay.
Never mind.
Okay.
I think, is it a wireless transmitter?
No.
Oh.
No, it
Yeah.
would have
So
to
we
We have to have
like-
analog,
we would-
right?
have to like-
Yeah, it would
Yeah,
have to,
yeah,
yeah. You'd
so
have to
no.
trench-
Analog?
You'd have
Yeah,
to
it's
trench the
analog.
wire, pour concrete, stick a,
Yeah, no,
that's why I was just
I don't know if
wondering
we
what.
want to get into
No,
that.
no, no, I was talking about
but
the one that's
that's,
already
you know,
there, on the
Yeah,
other
no,
side of the
this-
Ballard.
no, this would be,
That's the thing.
this
You
would,
sell
No.
it for
This
parts
would
and
be
get some money.
bad.
Put it up on eBay.
What,
Sell it for parts. Get rid of it.
It's antiquated, I think.
Hey,
okay,
some people might collect those.
There's a lot of
antiques.
HOAs all around the country, and somebody could have the same system and need the parts.
Alex on the eBay team.
all right, so.
Everybody sell everything.
I'm not gonna bring it, I wanna make sure that this stays on the agenda, in some capacity, although we haven't talked about it, but I wanna bring up again the, whether or not we're gonna, discuss the community availability access to the cameras. We had discussed that at one point,
Oh.
and there were some concerns about some privacy issues, there was some concerns about the accessibility and the stability of the platform since it was recording locally. And we haven't gone any further with that, but I'd like to explore that because I think that will be a good, beneficial feature for everybody in the community to, if it can be worked and it can be workable, then for everybody to take advantage of. So we're not gonna get into that right now. Newsletter, September.
Yep, it's, just articles are due September 1, please.
So, Donna, are you gonna?
So I'll have to do financial.
No, but who's going to be the main editor?
Well, I'll pull it all together.
You pull it all
I don't have a
together?
problem with that, just send me the articles. I'll still do that.
Unless somebody else wants to do it.
No, it's
Okay.
easy,
I didn't think anybody else wanted to do it.
yeah.
I don't want to do it.
It's not that bad.
Do we have to have a newsletter? Do people care? People read
The
them.
survey said yes,
Oh.
they do care.
All right then.
Survey
Is
says.
that once a quarter thing?
Yeah, it's
Quarterly.
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 Yeah, it's four times a year. But we can stop if that's what you guys
Uh,
want to do.
okay,
I think it's a good idea, once a quarter.
old business. Compliance, ongoing. I'm gonna have to find out where you are with some of this stuff.
So July 1, there's a July 1 update. I don't have that here with me, but we had talked about,
The Virginia legislature.
right.
Yeah, any updates to Virginia General Assembly on they're not gonna come out until October. At least a printed version of it, I know that for whatever reason. I know most of the laws come into effect, I think, July 1st, but for whatever reason, they're coming out with the printed version until October.
Probably new fiscal year,
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
get their money.
Yeah.
Well, they're
Fiscal year
redoing
printing money.
they're redoing the whole Virginia Property Owners Association Act. And it's
There's a lot of changes.
well, it's not that there's not that many changes. There's a
like
whole
three or
there's a whole
four.
numbering system change that they're going through. So at any rate, live video sessions. I haven't gone any further with that with you on that at this point. So
I mean, you seem to have a, you to me it seemed like you had an idea of what you wanted to do, and so that was,
I
or you had plans, whether it was
I haven't
private
done,
stream to
Yeah.
YouTube or
I
something.
haven't done
you know.
anything further with them at this
Okay.
point.
Can
so,
I, just an idea.
Sure.
I mean, I see you have a Dell with a camera. If you wanted to set up Zoom sessions or GoToMeeting, that type of platform, only folks with the code
Yeah,
can
that's where we were headed.
stream into it.
That's where we were headed, and by invitation. We just hadn't gotten down that road at this point. We'll see if we can't get something going with that, but we just haven't done it. But if we can make it work, we think it would be a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, my parents are here from Florida, and my dad logs into his HOA meetings down there while
Yeah.
they're here. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but yeah, we'll see what we can come up with.
Don't ask.
Okay, meeting moved to every other month. How about every quarter?
Well, they're required to have for a
one,
year.
Yeah, one every quarter.
That's what you're required, right?
That's what we're required, and then the annual on top of
Yeah,
that.
yeah, so 5 meetings.
It's all depending on whether all the business can get done, that's all.
Right. I guess that's kind of the strike the balance. Do we want to have one quarterly meeting that probably lasts 6 hours?
Well, I think it's,
or I mean,
but I think it's more about getting things done timely, there's some things that, like right now, we've kicked a couple things down the road because we're not sure of the budget because it is transition time.
right. We
So-
don't want to come back and address that in another 3 months.
Right. Now, maybe we can wait
But
two.
you could do a thumbs up, thumbs down, because we have discussed it.
We could do that,
You can do a thumbs up, but if there's any more discussion, it has to come back to the meeting.
correct.
Right. So I guess that's the question, right? If we decide to draw out our meeting schedule, are we going to find ourselves having to do monthly special meetings?
Well, that's why I
Because
thought,
that would be counterproductive.
well, that's why we originally said, let's try every other month, see
Right.
how
Ease
that
it- ease
is,
into it.
and then go to quarterly
Okay.
if we feel that we don't have to do it.
I would like, ultimately, my goal would be to go to quarterly meetings. That's my.
Sure, everybody would love that.
Yeah, I'm definitely not opposed to that. I just want to,
We have to
And
make sure
if
we
there
get
has to
things
be,
done.
if there's got to be, if you have to have if you have to schedule some sort of a special meeting,
yeah, I think the occasional
In the
special meeting
interim,
is
but,
fine. But
so.
All right, so we need to, I'll make the motion. I move that we go to
I'm
every
sorry,
other
but
month.
if you're gonna motion on that, then one food for thought. Quarterly meetings for y'all's business is okay, but are you gonna come up with some kind of process if members of the community have issues that are they only allowed to express those once every 3 months? If something has to be timely and such?
Yeah, so before we make a motion to change the duration of the meetings,
I would say let's get the budget in place
yeah,
first.
I tell you what, let's go to this, I wanna touch on this communication platform that I wanted to bring up. So why don't we just kind of push this meeting, our BOD meeting duration, delay back until we touch on that, and then, because I think that's an important part, because if we push these meetings back and people want to attend them and we don't have some sort of a mechanism in place that are going to give homeowners a platform in order to come and discuss in open meetings things, then it's going to be, we're going to kind of shortchange them. and I don't necessarily think that that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Jeff?
You'd only have 2 or 3 more meetings anyway every other month. You're cutting one out. So I'm just pointing this out. You're right. If you do third and fourth quarter, it's 2. If you do every other month, it's 3. So you can pick your change point as January of next year to what? I mean,
Yeah,
it's
so
not like it's a massive change is my point.
no, I agree, but we'll just touch on this here a little bit further down the meeting agenda. DPR complaint for old business. Where do we stand on that? Is that
So that complaint has been closed,
okay?
okay? So it's been resolved.
How is it? And it's been closed by final rendering. Final decision has been rendered to Pete.
Yes, to Mr. Phillips.
Okay.
He had some issue last time about not getting it or not acknowledging it. Has he done all that? I don't know, I haven't talked to Pete.
Not getting
Yeah,
it,
he didn't get the mail was supposed to come the day of the meeting, so he hadn't, the mail
Yeah,
hadn't gotten there
received
yet. Yeah,
So he
correct.
should have had it, and if he had any issues, he should have come back with issues. that
well, he
had.
could have come, yeah, he would have to file another complaint if he didn't agree
Well, that's
with
not-
the decision.
But you all did render the final
Via
Yes.
final
mail.
decision
We did.
to him.
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
What does DPOR stand for?
Department of
Professional.
Professional
Regulations.
Somebody say that.
That's right.
Clearer.
It's a mouthful and a half.
Occupancy, right, no, right?
I don't know.
Department
Regular.
And regulation, occupational
Occupational
regulation. or regulation.
Occupational
regulations.
regulatory or
Department of
regulatory
Professional Occupational
And
Regulations.
regulation.
Yeah.
Essentially
State licensing.
Licensing.
Yeah. Just happen to have HOAs fall under.
homeowner CCR enforcement.
So basically, this was on the agenda to close this because we had a lot of discussion. But however, we received something at 6:05 today.
Oh, I didn't see that.
So, I think that probably has to be an executive session. Did you guys see it?
No.
I didn't see
Yeah,
it.
I saw.
But I think that has to go to executive session.
Probably not.
You don't think so?
No.
Why?
If it talks about individual, I haven't seen it, but if it talks about individuals, then it,
It's individual.
I mean, it was an individual legal
It's an individual legal,
decision.
so it has to go to
or legal
executive.
opinion. I don't know either way. I'm just saying that's what it was. So
The executive session would only apply to that if it was pending litigation, and that's not pending. And from what I read, it's not pending litigation. It's an opinion. It's an opinion based upon an open session discussion that took place.
But they're expecting a response back from us.
Which is
So,
fine. It was-
which
Which was open session.
response back, and then we have to decide as a board if it is going to go to our lawyer.
Well, it definitely shouldn't go to the attorney. No question about it.
we made a decision, or we made an interpretation. That interpretation was challenged by a lawyer. So we can either say we appreciate your legal opinion, the board feels differently, and we have chosen this route. And
Okay.
then the homeowner that met with that lawyer could choose to escalate if they so be it, and then our legal counsel would more than likely be involved in that.
Okay, so I totally disagree on escalating to that point, because I don't think that the opinion letter, the intent of the opinion letter was to escalate it to that point, based upon what I read. If you read the
Right. But the opinion letter, if we have a difference of opinion, do you think that the
They-
homeowner is just going to be like,
Well, that's what we're-
okay, your opinion's right?
So I know, but I think that's what we're here to discuss.
Okay, let's discuss.
I think that that's the whole premise for the discussion, is why, what the opinion is and why the opinion is what it is. I think the opinion, my position is that your all's initial opinion on that CCR enforcement is wrong, and you all have vacillated from the original opinion to what it has now evolved into now.
So you're thinking
not.
we're interpreting what the lawyer gave to us differently?
Well, I don't know what the lawyer
What
gave
the
to you.
lawyer gave to us is exactly what I put in that newsletter. Word for word.
Regarding what the homeowner can enforce of the CCNRs.
Correct. That the homeowner cannot enforce the CCNRs.
But the homeowner can enforce the CCNRs.
If they want to take, anyone can sue anyone. If they want to
That's
go,
correct.
if they want to go that route.
That's not what you, that's not what was initially said. And therein, I think, lies the problem. And there's been an unwillingness up to this point for that to be walked back and for that to be clarified. You're right, absolutely, no, anybody can sue anybody for anything. And
The homeowner has,
the homeowner here, the board operates at the behest of the members and the declarant. And if at this point, if you wanted to go back and you wanted to clean up the CCNRs, all of the language referring to the declarant should be removed in order to clean it up. It would be costly and a little bit time consuming, but that's really the nature of what you would be dealing with. But the board doesn't give the members the power. The members give the board the power, and that's how the CCNRs read. And that's the way it's designed. That's the way that our CCNRs are designed. The CCNRs are a deed of record for our properties in here. It's not a land right, it's not a document right for the board to dictate to the homeowners what they're supposed to be doing. It's a document, a guide for the homeowners to give to the board to guide them as to what it is that we're supposed to, how we're supposed to, they're supposed to guide us. That's it. So as far as
I think Pete's thing has been whether or not a homeowner can, if I could issue Donna a fine for $500 or whatever it is, $10 for not
every day.
weed whacking, right?
Okay,
But that's what
herein lies the problem. There was never a, you all completely misinterpreted the intent of those violation letters. The way that it is supposed to work, any homeowner in here can enforce the CCNRs through a violation and a due process which we have in place. And they have to follow the rules that are in place for the due process for which is in place and written for CCNRs. And
But
so
what are those
No one
rules
did that.
Yeah. Sending the
wait a minute,
homeowner is not
so here-
that process though.
but it is.
No.
No.
Wait a minute, hold on, just hear me out. So when that letter goes out, the next thing that should have occurred was it should have gone to the board. That letter did not, that wasn't a demand letter for payment. There was no demand for payment, there was no demand for you're going to do this, you're going to do that. The next thing that should have happened
Sure
is that
read
letter.
that way.
Yeah, it's written
Well,
that way.
It said if you don't
If you
correct
don't-
this,
I mean,
if
I
you don't
got
correct
some
this,
even, hold on.
yeah, if you don't
I'll
correct
tell you
this,
how
we'll
I
come
read
on
it.
your property and fix it for you.
Okay.
That's pretty freaking directive.
Yeah.
So
And
That's-
not only
that's-
that, but there
Okay,
was no homeowner identified.
No one identified
who
behind
was
it.
saying that
It
there's
wasn't-
an
we didn't-
issue.
We didn't even know if it was a
Now we know
from
it's
this arbitrary group, right? So what should have happened is if a homeowner, let's say Pete or whoever, had an issue with another homeowner, they talk to the other homeowner and say, hey, this I don't like what you're doing here. I think you're against the rules. If they come to an agreement, you're done. If they can't come to an agreement, then the homeowner has to follow the due process and work through the HOA in order to get that enforced. Homeowner doesn't have the ability to
Okay,
enforce
so-
it directly without, if he bypasses the HOA, he's got to go to a court of law. That's how it should be done.
Okay.
And nobody took this to the due process part. Okay? It was just a letter that came out from this organization that was nameless, which didn't mean anything.
First of all, it did mean something, and it wasn't nameless.
Well, the organization had a name, but it didn't have people behind it that
Well,
were
of course
identified.
They didn't
That
have
were
to.
identified.
But they didn't have to be. They were identified. They were part of the neighborhood. They were part of the
Who
community.
were the people?
They were
You
part of
don't
the
know
community.
that, Steve. It could have come from outside
We
the
don't-
community.
Wait a minute. What did it say? I mean, it said that they were part of Green
But-
Gables community. I mean,
I
they
guess
were
I
part
look,
of it.
I guess I look
Yeah,
at it though, but
So-
I think I look at it too. I think we're beyond
Yeah.
the letter. The whole
Right.
issue of the letter, I think has been. I think the homeowners, and I haven't seen this latest email, but to date the homeowners issue has been we've been saying that the board, like you said, there's a due process, and that the board has the rights for the enforcement of the due process.
Okay, so exactly. So
think-
where are you? And you're,
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm getting at. Is that
So you-
he's coming
so
back
where
to
it
saying
is evolved-
no, and
so-
we're saying yes, and he's just saying no, and
Okay.
we're saying yes.
All right, so where it has evolved
Yeah.
to at this point, where and where we have gotten to at this point is, Donna sat at a meeting and she basically unequivocally said that homeowners can't enforce the CCNRs.
Cannot directly enforce the CCNRs.
No,
without going to a
no,
state
wait a minute,
court
wait a
of law.
minute. Well, I'm
That's
not-
true.
Homeowners cannot enforce the CCNRs. Well, homeowners can enforce the CCNRs, period. They absolutely unequivocally can.
Homeowners
And
have empowered the board
Look,
to do that.
Well, why do you have a board or an ARB or
Yeah, I
a...
can't-
I
I mean,
think you're talking
look,
semantics.
but you're not,
We are.
but you're not talking, you're not
No, but I
talking
hear you,
semantics.
and I wanna say that, I think you're right, in the sense that a homeowner can enforce the CCNR through the due process defined by the community. And I think I also heard you say earlier that once the homeowner notified the neighbor, that letter, or whatever that notification was, should have gone to the board, and I think my question is, by whom? Should it have gone to the board by the authors of the letter? Or should it have gone to the board from the recipient of the letter?
Whoever has the complaint.
Right,
Yeah.
so if the due process is that the board,
Exactly. So when that letter went to whoever received it,
right,
rather than it just being, that letter should have gone to either the board or the
By
ARB.
whom?
By who?
by whom?
By-
By the
Not,
authors
not the
of the
person that
letter?
received it.
Yeah, the
The
Absolutely.
authors of the
No,
letter.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely not. They don't issue the violation.
Because the person who received it said,
Okay.
this is bogus.
Hey, hold on.
Absolutely not.
Hold
Absolutely.
on.
Guys.
What is it called?
Anna Marie, hold on.
Civilian
Sorry, guys.
arrest?
Hold on, I'm gonna make a
There's
point of
something
order
about
here,
that.
okay? At no point did any homeowner come to me about a light that's 108 yards from the edge of the property. It came anonymously to me. That's the issue here.
Yeah, no, there's,
Right, but so a homeowner, if I received a letter and I didn't know where it came from, I'm not gonna tell the board about it,
Just gonna
Yeah.
throw it
because they're
away.
gonna fine me. So I'm gonna throw it away.
Absolutely.
But the author who's levying the complaint, it is their responsibility, if
Absolutely.
they want any action taken by this board or the community, to come to the board and say,
Yeah.
this is a problem and I want it addressed.
Absolutely.
Because it's a violation
it's
of the
completely
CCR.
unreasonable to
Absolutely.
think that the person who's receiving a violation letter is going to tattle on themselves.
Okay, all right.
Can I make a suggestion,
well-
because I sat at that meeting, I heard what Donna said, but I heard her say that as a result of Derek's rationale. I did disagree with the rationale, because you took this statement of the thing and said where it said unless otherwise, and then took something down here that was completely not related. So, but I do agree that I agree that homeowners should have the right to enforce CCRs. I think what the board should do is send out clarifications on how a homeowner should go about that. So if I have a complaint with my neighbor and we can't settle it, I should be able to enforce the CCRs by bringing it to the ARB or the board's attention
yes,
via,
sure.
here's what you
That
guys
is
need
the
to
due
do.
process.
And then you
But
need to
it's
act
not
on it within
public
some
speech to
reasonable
tell us.
That is
amount
the
of
due,
time.
and that is the due process.
Okay.
But to state that the
But that's
homeowners
not
don't
what you
can't-
said, that's not
Yeah.
what was said, and
That's
not what
what
was
I'm
said
worried
in the
about.
newsletter.
And I think
That
not
came
what was
from
said.
legal counsel.
Right.
But that's not what you said in the
But
newsletter.
That's what came from legal counsel.
But wait a minute,
But that's,
yeah.
But hold on.
Steve's right, and we've got people, we won't name their names, but some people in this community are very anal retentive about specific words and how it's said and how it's interpreted. And I think
People
that,
like that.
And I think the fact that when you came out and said homeowners can't do this, when it says right in the CCRs the homeowner can do that, I think that's where the friction begins.
I agree.
Yeah. All right.
And let me make one
Agree with
point on
it, and
this.
then tell them how they have to do it.
In the past week, I've had Army reach out to me. And there's been 2 homeowners that have reported violations secondarily to Army. And they sent it to me and I said, on your next inspection cycle, make a note, if it's a violation, cite it or do whatever you're gonna do with it. That's how it should work,
That's how it should work.
Yep.
okay? So I don't get involved, I'm like, you take care of it, I'm not, and that's how this should be handled, is they should have to go through the management company
That's
on it.
exactly how it
And
should
and if it's a violation for whatever, they get it, it's that simple. Now, I don't want people turning on people on anything, okay?
Oh, there's gonna be
But,
people who are gonna
but that's
do
the
that.
reporting process for it, to
Yeah.
keep it.
No, but
That's
so
how it works.
I'm hearing an action item, and I think you made the suggestion, that a clarification about the process that homeowners have to do in order to be an active party to enforcing the CCNR, right? What does a homeowner do to enforce the CCNR, and what is that process?
That's what I would do, because otherwise you're gonna get into this do loop, and I for one don't want.
Yep.
Look, I'm not sitting here advocating, I'm not an advocate for homeowners running around enforcing CCNRs on other homeowners.
Right.
But when you have a situation where you have a board telling homeowners that you can't enforce, only the board can enforce the governing documents that are governing you, and no one else can, that's a problem. When you have, I mean, when it says in here that that's not the case.
But I think that's not, I think
From
that's
what I
in the
heard
sense
at
of
those
there's still the
meetings,
due
it's out of
process
context.
for the homeowner.
Well, of
But
course,
that's,
Yeah.
so
I mean,
that's where,
that's,
so I think
I'm
that's
aware.
where,
Yeah,
I think that's
I'm
what the
aware of that.
miscommunication is,
I'm aware
is
of
it's
that.
not that
Is
there isn't, it's
probably
that they have to follow the due
Right.
process.
No one said at any point that they couldn't report something to the board or to someone else, but they can't take it upon themselves to be vigilantes in the community.
Jeff,
Absolutely.
nobody said anything about being vigilante.
Steve, I got one anonymously
Jeff,
from
but that's-
someone.
Hey, Jeff, look.
And you just said it was
Hey, look,
Pete.
hey, look, don't sit here and raise your voice, man. I'm not raising my voice at you.
Just
okay?
clarify what's in
Yeah,
the
just,
covenant, is what I would do.
Right.
be calm,
I
okay?
think a clarification is.
So,
Try to make
look, I mean,
everybody
we're not
happy.
talking, nobody's in here, talking about being vigilantes or anything like that. So,
Okay.
what
So-
we're talking about here is, if you're saying one thing, at least be clear about it across the board. That's what I'm talking about. If the CCNRs are talking about that the homeowner has the right to enforce, and somebody else is sitting over here saying that they don't have the right to enforce, and I think there's a reasonable expectation of clarity here for people.
I would agree with that 100%.
So here's a question.
So when it sits here in the CCNRs and it says in here, Chance, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
It says, nothing contained herein shall be deemed to prevent the owner of any lot from enforcing any building restriction in its own name. The right to enforce shall not serve to prevent any such changes, releases, modifications, or restrictions, reservations placed upon any part of the property by any party having the right to make such changes, releases, modifications in deeds, contracts, declarations, plats, in which such restrictions, reservations are set forth.
Right.
So, I mean, and this is in here more than once.
I know, but that's
So-
one specific
Well, but I
subgroup,
think
Steve. I
it's
understand
not-
your point.
So that's
But you
all
have
I'm
to do
getting at.
that through, if you don't do it through the
Yeah.
HOA, you
But
have
I
to
think
do it through
that's
a court
the-
of law.
Okay,
No, but
There's
I
only
think-
two ways.
Again, I think
Right.
what the issue is that is, yes, but then they have to follow the procedure
Right.
to do that. Yes, the homeowner does have that,
Right.
but you have to follow the
You have to
procedure.
follow the
But it's
procedure.
not, you can't send them a note saying
Right.
go $100.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I think that's the, I
And
think
who
that's,
do they owe that
you see what I'm saying? I think
$100?
that's where the,
And
I
that's a
think
little
that's,
oversimplification, but
Well, I think that's-
I get it.
you see what I'm saying? Whereas,
I
I
get
think
it.
that's the board's job to
But I
send them a
think
note
everybody
saying-
also in here needs to understand as well, that there's also language in here, there's also language in the CCNRs that expressly states that the board does not have to enforce the CCNRs or any of the restrictions in here whatsoever.
Which is what I was going to talk
If
about.
if it's in the
Period.
opinion of the
And
board.
here's the problem with that.
That enforcing
Here's the
something
problem
is
with
not
that.
smart.
Here's the deal.
Here's the problem with that. The problem with that is they can do that, but the problem with that is by Virginia code and Virginia law, that opens themselves up to personal liability.
Yes.
Yep,
Correct.
sure.
Bingo. So there's all sorts of what ifs. But anyway,
When it's wrong, Steve, you're right, it defers to Virginia code.
let's move on because I don't really want to be here all night. So.
What was decided?
Does
So
anybody
what,
have?
yeah, so what are we gonna do with that item?
What's decided?
There is nothing decided right at the moment, so let's just
We'll just continue to review.
we'll continue it because I'm sure some other people will want to have some comments on it as well.
So I thought we talked about a clarification.
Chance, yeah. I'm sorry, real quick. You had a comment to make on that?
No, it followed in with if the board decides, if somebody follows the due process as they're supposed to and says, this is a CCNR violation, and the board says, we disagree, we are choosing to actively not enforce it. Now,
Well, there's a difference. You could say, we disagree, it's not a violation,
well,
or you could say, we disagree.
Or if we just decide not to enforce it. Or if we're like, yep, you're right, it's a violation, we don't care, we're not gonna enforce it, which we wouldn't do that, but if that happened, then what's the next step? Does the homeowner that has the complaint now sue the board and the person who, if they sue the board, we have insurance, so good luck. But also,
no. Some,
right.
There's another.
there are many. There's
If you watch an issue,
there is, but you can't sue one member of the board, so.
sure you can.
For what? It would have to be a 3 out of 5 decision, so.
Insurance. I mean, it depends on what it is.
I'm just saying, so a homeowner is gonna be like, well, I'm so angry, I'm gonna sue 3 of the 5 board members that
Yeah,
voted
look,
this.
I get it.
And
I mean,
then
I'm
I'm also
sorry.
gonna sue this homeowner who is in violation of the CCNRs.
Yeah,
We don't wanna do that.
I know.
That is
I
ridiculous.
understand.
That is ridiculous, and I think we're going to come upon that this year or next year. And I don't like it.
Do you think it would be helpful to send out that clarification we talked about? So that the homeowners understand what the process is?
I think so.
I don't
yeah.
think there's any harm in sending out a clarification of what the due process is in plain, non-legal language.
Agreed. I think
I
that
agree.
would be so helpful.
But make sure, because I know some of these people in the community and how they think. Take back the statement that homeowners cannot enforce the CCRs. What you want is the homeowners can enforce the CCRs,
Yes.
but here's the process.
And here's
through
how
the
you
due
do
process.
that.
You must
That's
do
exactly,
this to
it's
do
be
it.
very specific.
Or, yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
trying to save you from getting a bunch.
5.8 emails a week. Is that what it is?
All day.
Okay.
So somebody has to actually draft that, and then the group has to review it.
All right. I'll do it.
You seem very well versed in it. I think this would be a perfect thing.
It'll have to pass.
Oh, absolutely.
Have to pass muster. So.
If I write it, it won't be right.
All right, new business. As far as the letter from Pete, do we want to? Does anybody want to address that any further at this point, or am I just going to go ahead and address it in this?
About from
You can just address it in that.
from his lawyer.
I think that's the best.
Okay. All right, new business violation notice to other homeowners.
I think we kind of beat that one.
Committee reduction.
What do you
I don't know what that is.
So we were talking to consolidate, to redo, we don't really need like the financial committee anymore.
Maybe for another couple of months, and then it's done.
You think
I
a
think
couple
the
months?
intent was to look at all the committees and see if we
Certainly
still
until we
needed
close
them.
the account.
If we still needed them, one of the things that was not doing a lot in the last bit of time was like social committee, the log mill gate committee, which I think is probably
That's already been
disbanded. But now we have new volunteers, so we can't be like, hey, welcome, sorry, we're shutting you down. So.
No cannoli for you.
No, oh, please, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
So the real thing is, if the social committee is going to,
for me.
if the social committee is going to do something, then
Right,
there's
yeah,
no
yeah.
reason to shut it down. But right now, it's been inactive pretty much for the last year.
Yeah, so maybe this is a dead item, like a moot item. I think.
And the finance committee, I'd say, you know, a month or two after, when all the checks
in
clear,
the
then
year,
that should
or
get,
end of the year,
yeah, that can get
January 1 or
expanded.
whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think this is probably not a huge
So if you
thing.
dissolve the finance committee, then do you all come up with the 2020 budget?
Well, the treasurer would come up with the budget based upon discussions with Army. The treasurer would bring the budget to us, but Army's gonna be essentially,
Okay, so-
their
so
job
the
is
treasurer
to,
and Army, those two, or Army's gonna propose something, work with the treasurer to figure out what the 2020 budget is.
Correct.
yes.
Yeah.
And then it comes to the board where it has to get approved. It's in Army's contract to help us with that.
I don't know the contract, I
Yeah,
haven't seen it,
that's
I just
fine.
asked them this.
Okay.
All right, discussion for, new communications platform, HOA, community vendor, et cetera. Okay, so I had mentioned something to you about this, did I mention it just to you or to everybody?
Nah, yeah, but, well, I saw it.
Okay, so I don't know whether who is familiar with this or not, but something that was brought up to me about a group communication platform for business, which we could apply to what we're doing here as an HOA was Slack. Is anybody familiar with that?
No.
Yeah, a little bit. I bet Jonathan's familiar.
Yeah.
Who?
John, her son.
Okay, so nobody's familiar?
I'm familiar with Slack.
Okay,
Uh,
so-
sort of, a little
Sort
bit. I'm not.
Okay,
like
so
an
what
expert.
Slack is apparently, it's a corporate, Larry, are you familiar with it at all? No. It's a business corporate utilized communication platform that allows you to compartmentalize different groups, they refer to them as channels, within within a singular organization. So, for example, if we were just using the HOA as an example, the HOA would be the organization. You would have the different channels or compartments for that organization, the board, committees, members would be the different portions or petitions of that organization. They can be, and you can do virtually anything you want to do within that platform. The different compartments, the board section can operate and communicate under themselves. Everything is done within the confines of that platform. All the communication is done within the confines of that platform. All the communications are saved within the confines of the platform.
Is it in the cloud?
It is,
It's
yes.
open source too, right?
Pardon me?
It's open source.
It-
Should
You don't have to
be.
pay. It's open source.
Well, yes, it is, it's free.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's not free.
Well, it is free.
There's a
But-
there's a free version.
There is a free version, yes, and I believe,
Isn't it a user-based cost, Chance?
I'm not sure. I'm actually looking at their pricing standards right now.
you can, we're not gonna need, or we wouldn't be utilizing like the enterprise version.
No.
But if, I believe the free version would serve our needs sufficiently.
It's not expensive.
It's
right?
not, if we had to
What's
pay
not
for it,
$7 a
yeah,
month.
$6.67,
Is that per user probably? So that's not.
yeah,
No, it's not per user.
it is per user.
Is it per user?
Yeah.
$6.67 per user.
Up to 15 users for the standard pricing.
Depends on the user.
Well, then you'd have 50 users.
So, at any rate, but what it does is it keeps your entire organization in one environment. Everything.
Yeah,
So
we
all
talked
of your
about
all of your members, all of your different committees, all of your different sections, everything is in one place, everything. So, if we wanted to communicate, if the board wanted to communicate amongst themselves, you'd have, the Slack app on your phone or on your desktop or whatever. Somebody sent you a message, you just get a notification on your phone or on your desktop, and you just, go on and you type and you instantly transfer, communicate it to whoever it was within that particular group. If you wanted it to go out to the entire, community, or if the community wanted to communicate with the entire community, or just somebody on the board, or somebody in a particular committee, or whatever, it's entirely adaptable.
We have that already with the neighborhood thing?
Well, but doesn't Wouldn't the Google platform provide similar functionality?
It's similar to that.
Right,
Microsoft
like Google
also,
Team
yeah,
Drive
that's what
and
you
things like that.
right.
Microsoft also has their version. Like there's a number of
365.
groups out there that they all are.
I'm not
kinda
against
same
I'm not
concept.
against Slack, but it can't replace email, right? Because there are people in this community that will not get on this platform.
I don't think they don't have to be on the platform. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I've got to find out.
Yeah, I don't know enough about it to speak.
I've got to find out that
intelligently,
even a conventional email will migrate over to the Slack platform.
because that's important, right? I mean, I know my 80-year-old neighbor is
Yeah.
probably not going to
Well-
download his Slack on his phone, you know.
I don't think,
And the
I don't think
60-year-old
there's
one
some.
next to him won't do it.
I was talking about you. I didn't
So,
know. Oh.
but here's what I'm getting at.
Hey, chance it was close.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Look, what I'm getting at here is the same issues that you brought up, a year or so ago. That, look, my inbox is just, I can't tolerate.
This is
I
why
would,
he's
and I would recommend too, and I know I've recommended this in the past. I would really like us to have some form of a SharePoint share drive concept where files that we do have, things that we're holding can be
Like meeting
minutes. Like all these meeting minutes. Like I'm,
Yeah.
Yeah, that is.
or
that
like
is
so-
very.
so-
or like the
Okay,
latest.
so
if-
why are we
if-
not doing that right now?
I was going to bring that up.
Set it up.
That
We
was
haven't set it up.
I
We've had too much on our plate to focus on that.
Okay, well, let me call King, or somebody call King and just tell him to just do it.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
I mean,
it's
setting up something like a Dropbox or a Google Drive is easy.
Yeah, of course,
I'm
yeah.
also a huge advocate of ditching Yahoo for Google.
Well, I don't know why we're using Yahoo anyway, because it is wrought with
It's awful.
malware, virus, I mean, the whole.
Look, I had planned to come to this meeting
is
with
just
a
awful.
pitchfork and a torch because I
If you go Google,
I
I'll
am-
volunteer for the committee.
I am so against Yahoo. We need to migrate everything
Shirley puts
to
together
Our, look,
two
our IT
Google
guy,
platforms.
our IT guy won't even let us,
Pretty easy
won't even
right
let us know.
there.
Yeah, so
Shout out
we need to
to
migrate.
Nothing against that?
No,
Yeah.
So look,
I'm saying
I don't know, a couple things, so
Yeah.
I don't know that, I need to do a little bit more, research into the Slack thing to see if it will work and work well, but in the meantime, we gotta do something, because I'm missing things, because
Yeah.
I've got multiple emails that stuff is going from here to there, and I'm missing stuff, so,
I'm happy
but
to
something has
volunteer.
got to do, we gotta do something.
so what was the, cause I even asked King.
So the issue.
What was the issue?
So part of the issue is our domain provider is registered with the Yahoo account. So we would have to leave the Yahoo account open anyways and just do an auto forward to anybody who emails that. And they would also get a reply that says, please use this. So our domain provider is webs.com. It's also garbage. We need to switch when that contract is up. We need to go to something totally different, and I'm happy to talk more about that in the future. We have a year. But the
Just dump it.
well, I'm happy to just dump it too. We have to point it. We need to talk about moving the website off of webs.com, but that is really the only thing that is tied hard apparently to the Yahoo account, which is nothing, right? That's one thing.
All right, just kidding. I mean,
Yeah.
Well,
does
we-
anybody
we
have
can't-
a problem
we
with
can't
getting
get-
rid of it?
Well, we can't get rid of it until we
Yeah,
build a new one.
Right. So we'd have to go with a new domain, right? And that's going to cost a different amount of
No.
money, right? So like we have to do something like Wix, or we have to move to Squarespace, or something that is a lot more modern. Webs.com is an old architecture, as you can tell by our website, and so we moved from an older architecture to something that's a lot more user friendly, and it would help our domain master, but that's a totally separate thing, right? But there's an associated cost with that, and I don't know if it's more. It probably is more, or at least as much as the domain that we're currently being hosted by, right? So we're getting on a whole different topic, but that shouldn't stop us from ditching Yahoo in favor of Google, because if you switch to Gmail, you get access to a Google suite of things like Google Drive. like
Yeah,
And,
you know,
and they also
like SharePoint.
It's like
like
saying Google has their own Slack
yes,
version.
they
and all
yeah.
that
So
stuff.
you
Well,
can,
not
it's
that-
G Suite, but
you
that's what I
can
use for my
move
business.
your
But
domain to Google,
you can
right? So you don't have to abandon your domain.
right. You can move
transfer it to
right.
Google.
You can move your domain to G Suite, and I mean like my personal website or my personal
Right.
domain, everything is all on is all through Google.
Yeah.
But there is an associated cost with that, and it may end up being more because it's user based, right? So it's $12 per user per month, up to X number of users. It's not terribly expensive, but it's a monthly cost. Webs.com was like $200 for 2 years or something. That could be wrong, but
I thought it was 50 a year, but it's pretty.
yeah,
it's pretty low. Whatever
Either way,
it is.
it's not super expensive. So we would basically be modernizing but increasing costs. So these are all budget things that we have to understand. We're going to be
Yep.
nickel and diming here. So
But you also can think about how you leverage the users. You might have your webmasters only be the registered users, and then
yeah, potentially.
and then within the
It depends whether we want to stick. Like
how you're
I'm a
using
big
it,
proponent
how you
of
wanna
institutional email addresses. I've covered that in detail. I'm a
Yes,
big,
you have.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of institutional email address. That's why my email doesn't have 800 extra emails in it. So I'm a big proponent of institutional emails, and to do institutional emails, you have to, with your domain, anyways, you have to pay for users. Anyways,
Yeah.
we're getting off on a tangent here.
It sounds to
So
me
we
like we
need-
need a little more research.
We need more research, I agree.
Well,
But we ought to. It's something everyone wants to do, but we haven't
we've been
figured
wanting
out.
to do it.
But we haven't figured
Yeah,
out which
I'll-
platform to
And,
use.
and how to go.
look, I mean, I'll go deeper into the Slack, but like I said, in the meantime, I mean, how much could the Gmail switch cost?
Well, switching to Gmail, if we had
Switch to Gmail is not gonna.
switch to Gmail is free.
Well, then let's do it.
That's what I'm saying. The switch to Gmail is free. If we wanted Gmail to host our domain, that's an associated cost. But if we just want, Green Gables HOA at gmail.com, that's free. That's just
Okay.
yeah, it's
Well,
available. It's just starting an account.
So we could go ahead and do what you're saying, keep Yahoo up for those people that, until we migrate.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
everything.
everything has to migrate
Yeah.
smoothly.
But the thing is, the Yahoo would never actually go away.
Right.
We would just
You're
just
gonna
stop using it.
You're just gonna just forward everything.
Yeah, everything will get forwarded. We'll just stop using it when we set up new contracts, and within a year, nobody will remember the Yahoo
Yeah.
account.
So Derek? What were you saying about that Google had some
Yeah,
sort of
so-
Slack version?
So the Google,
G Suite.
yeah, Google
What-
Windows, they all have their their version. It's almost the exact same thing. It's just their tweaks and bells and whistles.
Their
That's all.
collaborative environment.
They're
Real
collaborative.
knowledgeable on that?
So yeah, so they all have their own little thing. Like there was an article in the paper today talking about how Windows, I can't think of what the Windows one is called, just overtook Slack as the most used
365.
version of
Yeah,
of
Windows.
that
Yeah, Windows.
environment.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah, so they all kind of have their own little version of it. Yeah.
Well, it's either that or did King set up your at-large email?
Yeah, I've been using it for a year.
Okay, well, it's either that or I've just got to call him and get something because
So we have one.
I
Yeah,
can't-
everybody has one.
Everybody all 5 board members have one.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, so we either if we think we're gonna move away from webs.com,
Yeah.
we should probably not use those, and we should set up other individual, the Gmail ones basically.
who's gonna do that?
I can take that on because
Okay.
I'm competent in that, and I'm passionate about not getting spam email from all of you lovely people.
Yes,
So,
I will continue with the Slack, and
All right.
in the meantime, you do that.
yeah, so that's fine.
So when you do that, you might not want to do that like an at-large or a president one because we switch our roles around.
Yeah, that's the intent, right? So, who's member at large now?
I am.
You. I'll give you the password. I'll change it to something that's not personal, but I'll change it. I'll
Yeah,
basically.
password won't. Password,
Yeah, I'll just
and
change
then
it just
it
so
goes
generic
to
password and be
Right,
like,
because then
here it is. If you're interested in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yes, that was the whole point of
Everything
institutional is
It just follows the person.
position.
It follows the position.
Position,
instead of
right.
having to be like, oh, you were member at large 3 years ago. Do you have that email from whatever vendor. No, we don't have to do all that. Anyways, we're getting off on a tangent here.
Okay, all right, so that, great.
Yeah, so I'm happy to work on migrating the email account if everybody's fine with that. I guess we probably should vote on that. But I'm happy to do that. It will require access to the Yahoo account. That's
Okay.
right. Yeah. So that's all. I mean, not that that's like a problem. I'm just saying
No,
that,
not
that
a
is
problem.
that is the requirement. So
Okay.
So what's the downside? Is there a downside?
I don't see there is a downside. The first month or two, it's going to take somebody paying attention to both the Yahoo account and the Gmail account to make sure that nothing is getting dropped, right? And if we switch, we'll have to go out to the community and say, hey, we're updating our community email address. Please use this one in the future. And then, we just have to expect there may be some hiccups.
Somebody's got it saved.
Somebody,
the old
yeah,
address
there's going to be a hiccup
yeah.
now
I
and
was on
again.
vacation
But-
when you said that.
But in general, things should auto forward. You can just set up an auto forwarding rule that anything that hits the inbox of the Yahoo account will be automatically sent to the Gmail account.
And
Additionally,
I like the idea too of, okay, maybe it's whether it's a quarter, 6 months, a year, that then just eventually just goes away completely.
It will, yeah, it'll eventually-
That way it's
yeah, people
gone
just
and
stop everything.
everything is held together in one new platform.
it's also very easy to migrate all of the existing email that's in Yahoo. You just pipe it right over to Gmail and it populates.
Okay.
So we're not going to lose any email.
So, and just to kind of wrap this up, so the whole goal with the Slack thing for the whole reason why I brought it up was if we ended up going to a once a quarter meeting, the whole Slack environment would give you the ability to fill in any of that vacant time.
Right. Still can collaborate.
Exactly, and you can do it with the entire community if you want to. I mean, you could video conference with Slack with the entire community if you wanted to, with certain individuals, with groups, whatever, committees, however you want to do it. You can, your newsletters can be done via Slack. It's almost, the sky's the limit. Sky's the limit with it. So that was the whole premise for trying to migrate onto something like this, to give, just to free up, what we're doing and get away from, give everybody their time back.
But to actually have a discussion and make a decision, we still have to have a meeting. Now, maybe it
Not
could be
necessarily.
Well,
I
it
mean,
could be virtual, perhaps.
That's exactly. I mean, you can do it.
But-
You can do
You have
it.
to sign.
You can do it.
You have to sign a piece of
Yeah.
paper saying that you want to do it.
That,
Yeah, electronically.
Yeah,
You
we-
can.
It's in the,
Like,
we could
say
do
for
that.
example, you wanted to respond to somebody via email. You can do it. You can do it verbally, and send a verbal video file to them as your response. It's pretty cool. I mean, it's pretty cool. It works if you use it. Now the question is whether or not all of those features are available in the free version.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which
that's a good question. That I
Good stuff
don't
probably
know.
isn't.
That I don't know. I got.
But I think, like you're saying, the G Suite has a tremendous amount available, so it may have quite a bit of that.
It does. It does. But G Suite, I will freely admit that G Suite can add up.
Oh, it
Right.
does. So
Yeah.
okay.
Because when you're looking at $10 a user, I mean,
Yeah.
it can be quick.
Yeah.
And there's probably ways to kind of like skirt the, only have the webmaster, or only have, like the main account, and there are ways to probably reduce those costs, but Google, they're gonna get their
the
penny.
pound.
Yeah, they're not.
Jeff, what did you?
Is there any, just one thing from the state standpoint, what's legal as far as open meetings and stuff, and what you have to have or not, because you're gonna need to have people opt in or opt out. I'm
You
fully,
definitely have them opt in.
technology wise, I'm all, you're right, young Peck is 78 years old.
Right.
And we don't want someone saying, well, I never knew, or I don't know how to do that, or whatever, so I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean the
I mean,
fallback.
we got the migrating crowd here in this community.
I mean the fallback for that, for the state notification is mail. That's it. I mean.
Well, I understand, but we're going.
Yeah, I mean, if he doesn't want to get into a technology thing, you just got to mail. You got to mail and everything. I mean, unfortunately, there's.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting
Yeah.
at. And that's for you all, I mean, if you get ahead of the state, because they're gonna lag behind to notify them, you guys need to get the legislature.
There's a whole, they just passed, they just went through
Yeah.
a whole use of technology thing,
Yep.
this past general assembly.
Yeah, they're
So
behind.
one
There's a
question
lot of-
for us
there's a lot
60
of
and
latitude with it.
80-year-olds in the community that don't Facebook, we don't tweet, we don't
Larry, stop referring to
several
yourself
things.
as an
Are you
80-year-old.
guys gonna still be able to?
Carrier pigeon, we got it.
Well, yellow stickies in the mailbox works too, but
Smoke signals.
Yeah, no, I mean,
telegraph.
are you comfortable with the procedures that are going on now?
I can do email.
'Cause
I think your website works half the time for me and a lot of information's not out there, so having a better website would help.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the website. But I think that at a minimum, people would still receive emails if they wanted to be a part of a more collaborative environment than something like Slack or a Microsoft product like Microsoft 365 or G Suite would allow them to do that. But you could still always come to a meeting, right?
Well, because I'm all for you all finding a virtual way to make your jobs easier and you guys communicate that's fine. I just worry about, I don't think I'm the only one in the community that's, back a few decades and not up on.
Oh, I totally agree.
So,
I think we tell them, it's like FaceTime.
Yeah,
It'll all
it's-
be okay.
it's my space.
We'll see, I mean, we'll see what happens, I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, we
It
still
may
have a
not
lot,
even,
we
it may
still have
not even
homework
work.
to do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
we have a lot of
I'm
homework. It's worth
100%
it.
for a communications revamp. We just need to figure out what the best way forward is,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Agreed.
Okay.
All right, that is, that's it, I move to adjourn.
Actually, I have one thing, can we go back then, so then what are we gonna do for next meeting, then we need to go back to that, are we gonna do
Okay.
next month, every other month, every quarter?
Okay, so, I would say,
We kicked
Well,
a
it has to be a
couple of,
decision, so.
well, we kicked
Yeah.
a couple of things down the road because we weren't sure about the money. So, and some of those things involved outdoor work, so we wanna make sure we don't kick the meeting out to the point where, the weather deteriorates.
Again, you can do that thumbs up, thumbs down, because we've discussed it.
Good.
And we've already seen all the pricing, so it's
We've
just,
seen all the pricing, but we haven't looked at the budget and decided whether it's,
So we could
how risky
decide-
we can go.
we could decide who we'd want to go with, and I think we already have.
Yeah, I
That
think
was
we,
pretty easy.
that was pretty easy.
So now, if the budget works,
Right.
then
Right.
we could do thumbs up, thumbs down, all that.
and if, and I'll make the proposal that if there's something, I will say, make the proposal to go skip a month unless there's some pressing matter, or if there's some pressing need, or if there's an individual or a community, groundswell of community, need to have a meeting next month.
So push,
We'll have it.
So just
Then we'll
do-
push it
so
to, then we'll
push-
push it to September.
push to September.
Sounds good to me. Second.
members discussion.
So we do, yeah, there is a
Yeah.
member discussion period.
Yeah, you can't adjourn
Where
yet.
you have all of the, you have everybody's time?
I won't do it, I'm only gonna take 5, and this may be
We have these.
eased up
these
with
guys.
Army going to, with Army and a couple months ago, I expressed a concern in the last meeting, not the annual and stuff. And I don't care about the content of what these registered and certified mails were, but it bothered me a little bit that the HOA wasn't receiving certified and registered mails. I went and I did, on behalf of the HOA, complain to the Postmaster General at Chantilly of their inability to deliver certified and registered mails. Interesting thing, and I'm not gonna bring up details because I don't wanna open any words or point fingers, but it did raise a couple questions in my mind. Who in the HOA is authorized to pick up mail for the HOA? Is there a list? Is that list at the post office and updated, maintained?
Not that
And
I'm
the
aware.
second thing related to was, how many addresses is the HOA using? It looked like there was an HOA box. It looked like for some state stuff, there were addresses. And I don't even know for the federal, on our income tax return, what address is on the income tax return. Is all that gonna get unified into an address with Army And what I'm worried about is actual legal things that may have some timely to it,
So
that get sent to the HOA and we're not receiving it for whatever reason.
So I think the answer's, so the answer to part of your question, I think, is pretty simple. We have one HOA mailbox. We have 2 keys for that mailbox, okay? So the 2 holders of the keys, and I'm not even sure who they are right now, can open the mailbox, okay? Then we have a registered agent.
But wait a minute, you're not sure who has the keys.
I know Donna has one.
Okay.
And
So,
Steve
Does Steve Mast have the
still
other
has
one?
the other one.
Still the
Okay,
other
so
one,
Steve
yeah.
Mast has the other one. That's going to change because Steve Mast is not involved anymore. So we have to get that key and give it to somebody else.
How often is it open up? How often is it?
So I just got the key right for the election stuff because Shar was out of town. So I've only had it since like Sahar, since like the 16th, 17th, somewhere in there. So I haven't been picking up the mail.
Right. So well, Steve had been because bills and stuff would
He
come in.
he does.
He had been picking it up. No more bills should be coming in, but yeah, we have to get the key from Steve. So then the other part of your question is legally. So we have something called a registered agent. That has been Steve Mast. As the treasurer, he was the registered agent.
But he hasn't been
And we haven't
treasurer
changed
for
that
over
yet.
a year. That's.
We have to change that.
Well, no, I think I
You
may
think?
have been.
Yeah,
put on this
you're the registered agent now.
Are you the registered agent now?
I think I am now.
Okay.
And if I remember correctly, that form asked for my.
It requires a street address.
Street address, my home
Right.
address. So that's,
Well, that was part of the comeback to me, is they showed me files where something went to a street address, something went to the post office box. We're not gonna get into who refused what, but it bothered me that I didn't understand what addresses we were using for what. Our
so
income
Larry, I
tax
have a
file,
question for you.
what's on the federal income tax return?
Probably the registered agent, but I couldn't tell you.
Is it
I don't know.
for the HOA?
I did not complete. I don't know. I did not complete. I don't have
See,
the
another
taxes.
thing, like again, something happens with our tax return, the IRS sends us something that's timely and we don't know where it's going? Well,
I
who's
personally
picking it up?
don't know. I'm not saying we
Anyway.
don't know.
I throw that out because I think a discussion needs to happen with y'all, and I don't want
Well,
to say what the answer is, but we need to have.
So at some point, I think we're going to transition a lot of that to Army. Now, whether we make them our registered agent or not, that's going to cost us some money, but we could do that. Otherwise, it has to be one of us.
Well, the PO box is going to go away at some point.
We
and
won't be
everything-
needing it.
Everything would go to Army.
Yeah, we're in a transition stage right now.
Right, so I guess at that point it would be, in an ideal world, it would be 2 addresses. All right, Army, which would would replace the PO box, and if we want to not spend $150, say a month or a year, $150 a year to make Army the registered agent, then one of the board members, probably the president,
Yeah.
would be the registered agent, and it would require their physical address. So
I don't wanna say that that's wrong, but I think that that's wrong.
you think we can have?
I don't,
I mean-
a physical address, a physical street address is not required for a registered agent in the state of Virginia, but I'll double check on that. 'Cause
But it has to be a person, though.
Right, can you have a registered agent with a PO box being the
Yeah,
address?
yes.
Okay, I mean, I don't know.
That's very possible. I don't know.
I mean, if that's
We
the
just
case.
followed, I mean, that's what Steve Bass had done in the past.
That's what he had done, yeah.
so-
That's been like that since day
So-
zero.
Like I said, we don't need to solve it tonight. I don't.
So,
You
I mean,
guys need to have the
$150
answer. I don't
to
want to be
have-
part of the answer.
If
but
Army's gonna be running if Army's gonna be running the finances here, and everybody's comfortable with what Army is doing, and all of the checks and balances are in place, then $150 to have Army as a registered agent is.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a good idea.
Look,
It's a good idea. It's just a
is
matter of doing it.
is nothing.
all I mean,
It all
in my head, all I
nothing's
see
Yeah,
is
the nothing's add
400
up.
here, 150 here, and then next thing you know, we are.
Yeah, but, look,
I'm not saying we've been.
No,
I'm not saying we're perfect.
I know, and I'm not.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not. I'm not going to sit here and get into a long drawn out
Yeah,
about. But I mean, we're sitting here talking about $150 here, $150 there, $200 here, when
What that?
If you wanted to start, if you really wanted to start complaining about,
Well, it's not even that.
$1,000 here, or
that's the-
$5,000 here,
it's-
or $10,000.
builds up.
That's the problem.
Builds up.
It's now we're $1,000 over our maintenance budget, or because we've had gate issues.
Look, I-
So no, I'm not. What I'm saying is we just we gotta
It's something to transition to at some point.
right.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
So
I
when the
think
transition is complete, it would
Steve's,
be important to
the
inform the
point,
homeowners.
he's
of what the
right,
address
that
of the
Oh,
utility
absolutely.
is.
the small
Absolutely.
stuff that makes the legal stuff easier to do has to be addressed.
I agree.
Yeah.
Now, secondarily to that, we had for how long was it when dues didn't go up at all? Because
For years.
Many
Mass
years.
did it for free and whatever. And we might as well accept, Steve sells gas, I sell flooring, shit's getting more expensive.
Yep, dues
And
and
just tell people, if it's gonna go up $50 a house a year or whatever, to do that, to cover some of this stuff, to do it right.
10% a year forever.
This is called, it's called the law of unintended consequences. And, when everybody you start looking at, oh, it's gonna be great, Army's gonna come in, they're gonna do all this, and this, that, and the other, and it's gonna be wonderful, and and they say it's gonna cost X. Well, it really isn't gonna cost X. It's gonna cost X plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Oh, absolutely.
But you don't think about that, and everybody sits there and they're like, "Oh, well, this is going to be great. Let's do it. Let's jump it. Bam. Let's make it great." Well, and then all of a sudden, everything starts coming in, and and then you start saying, "Oh, well, I didn't know about that," and Jesus, I didn't know about that, and then I didn't know about that, and well, and then $150 here, $200 there, geez. Well, all of these things have to be considered on the front end rather than on the back end. So that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm getting at. So anyway, okay. So next meeting is in September.
When?
The mailbox with a front gate called the HOA.
What were we usually doing the first Tuesday?
We can't do Tuesdays on
You,
Thursdays.
you have
Well,
a limitation, right?
Yeah, so I'll be done. I'll be done with that in August.
Oh,
So then I'll be back. I just will come down to it's sports on that. I'll
Yeah.
I wouldn't know. I would just say let's pick a date.
Tuesday the 3rd.
That's the day after Labor Day.
We're
We're not here.
I'm just saying people
Tuesday
take.
the 10th.
10.
Sounds good for now. I have no idea, but that sounds good for now.
Same bat time. 7:30.
7 o'clock.
Yep, 7 p.m.
I'll wait for the email to come out. As long as I still get email.
Always.
Do we still have executive session material?
I forget what we were even talking about.
We had
Probably.
commercial farm and legal.
Do we want to punt some of this, or do we want to do it?
I would,
List those people who aren't supposed to be in executive.
It's Friday night.
yeah.
And it's 4 o'clock and I need a glass of wine. I mean, 4 o'clock, 9 o'clock.
Okay, Jerome.
I'm ready to quit too.
Yeah, okay. I think we're fine if everybody's okay that we to punt stuff to the next meeting or
That's fine.
talk about it, offline, then we can do that too, whatever.
Chance, you
I
got one
move
in
to
Barnes?
adjourn.
All right.
What's that?
You got one in
We're
Barnes? You
done.
got one in the garage in Barnes?
No, not yet.
No?
We adjourned?
I think we're adjourned.
All right, seconded. No, I'm gonna build a shop, but I gotta find an extra $100,000 laying around. So
How big a shop are you looking for?
40 by 60.
Oh, boy.
That's big.
It's a nice shop.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah,
40 by
it's
60.
the same thing. And it turns out
That's
the
what I
barn.
think Steve's is too.
Turns out the barn is the cheap
It turns
thing.
out it's not as big as you think.
It's the $20,000 in
No, I would
concrete.
go 100
That's right.
100 by 80.
How much
Jesus.
land you got?
10 acres.
There you go. That's a big barn to me.
I actually don't. I've got 2 acres of unwooded land, which is awesome.
There is a light there, right?
Is this
I can see it.
Yeah, it's 2 acres on the.
yeah.